Hello, folks. It is JP Murray. Welcome to the Push to Pass podcast. I've got my friend, man, this is one of the best guys in motorsports. And I tell you what, that is without debate. It's Shane Stewart, owner of Port City Raceway, one of the greatest drivers in the history of the Sooner State. He owns Port City in Tulsa, Oklahoma, with his fantastic family and his wife, Jen. Shane, welcome. Glad to have you on the podcast today.
No, I really appreciate it, JP. We haven't known each other a very long time, but our short time that we have known each other, we've grown to be family. Really, like your brother, he'll pop into the racetrack every once in a while on a blue moon, and always is checking on us, and you're doing the same. But really appreciate you having me on your podcast, and let's get to it, and let's talk some business and
Yeah.
racing.
Let's talk some business of racing. Hey, why don't you tell me a little bit about this Port City, this Port City program you got going? Every time I see racers go to this event in social or whatever it is, whatever you're doing over there is really working. So tell me about maybe how many events you have, the type of teams that show up, and the fans. Yeah, give us a little overview of that.
Yeah, so it's crazy, but Port City is getting ready to have their 50th anniversary this coming season, and that's something that means a lot to not just me, but all the owners that's touched the facility leading up to me. And each owner has upgraded a little bit here and upgraded a little bit there, and made the place what it is today. And it's a hidden gem. We're literally we're about 3 miles back behind the Hard Rock Casino. We're about a mile and a half off Interstate I-44 right there in Tulsa, and great location. It's a little bit hidden where the track is because it's kind of weaved back into an industrial park. But we have 42 events. We start in March. We end with one of our bigger races, our Keith Coons KKM Give Back race, and it ends end of October. So from March to October, we try to cram in as many races as we can, and it equals out to be about 42 races. On a weekly basis, we have 4 divisions of micros. Um, our junior sprint classes, which are our young little guys, they can start racing when they're 6.
Wow.
And then it just progresses up the ladder from there. We have a class called Restrictor, which is a 600cc motorcycle engine in a micro, which is just a scaled down wing sprint car, really is what it is. And we put little restrictor plates in those motors to help the kids get acclimated to the speed, and then once they go from the restrictor class up into our stock class, they're turning 8-second laps at our track. So
Holy smoke.
it's a progression. But one of the cool things about what we have going on at Port City is it's a very technical track, and most of the parents that if their kids learn how to race at Port City, they most likely will always come back and tell you our kids' progression in the motorsports, whether they progress up the ladder to a sprint car or a stock car or whatever, they always say that Port City was such a good place for them to groom and to hone in their hand-eye coordination, and things happen so quick at Port City. And it teaches these kids how to navigate traffic, how to avoid wrecks, and all that is you have to train yourself to do that. And Port City's just been really good at such an early stage of these kids' careers. And we kind of hold ourselves at a high level as far as having a nice facility. It's a clean facility. And there's a lot to it. There's a lot of behind the scenes things that happen that people don't get notarized for. And there's 32 of us on a Saturday night to make a weekly show happen. So It's a crazy circus that we live, but it's well groomed, and I inherited a great place, and we're continuing to try to grow it.
That's you brought up the point of what a great track it is to grow racers, and the proof's in the pudding. You got people like Cannon McIntosh, Taylor Reimer. Those there are probably others that I'm missing that was their home track. That's where they learned, and now they're at the top of the midget division in a very big way. Yeah, that's
Yeah, I
that's
mean,
great.
yeah, Brady Bacon,
Sure.
Darren Pittman. I didn't I when I was growing up racing, there was another track that wasn't too far away that I actually raced at that facility more than I did back then. It was called Rujo, and I didn't race very much at Port City, but it's just a great place to teach kids how to race the right way, and one of the debates that we always have is trying to teach them how to race clean and be
Mm.
respectful of their other competitors, which is if you look at social media, it's something that even all the way up to NASCAR, the respect level with some of these kids tends to kind of get shifted to the side because mom and dad wants them to be the best they can be. And we've been really trying to hone in on that a little bit too, is, hey, look, you can race hard, but you got to race clean. And
Hmm.
that part of it's been a little bit of a challenge, but on the other side of it, it's been fun to watch the kids progress. And their parents know, if they screw up at Port City, they're going to get reprimanded, whether that's sent to the back or sent to the pit area. And so that part of it's been interesting, but
Hmm.
it's an ongoing challenge that I even saw at the end of the last race with NASCAR with the Truck Series, and it's just something that it starts at our level, and it's been interesting to learn that side of it, but it's been fun too.
You know, that's so interesting. Let's talk about another side of it that this is that's new to you in a way. I mean, think about it from a business perspective. You were a race driver before you were a track owner. So, what did you think about track owners when you were a driver?
Well, excuse me. There was a few times that I voiced my opinion, and once again, like at the level that I was at, we're a traveling circus, right? Like we would
Mhm.
come into town, we would do our show and pack up and go to the next town, just like a concert would, right? Or a musician. So that side of it, you didn't never see all the work that went in to make that event happen prior to when we got there, and then all the work afterwards, after we left town and left a mess and all that, right? So
Yeah.
that side of it's been very educational.
Did
I I tried to keep my mouth shut for the most part. I mean, there was a few times that I voiced my opinion, but for the most part, I didn't say a whole lot. We there was always another race, right? So if that race got canceled due to rain, and or if we tried to race and we couldn't get that event in, I mean, it just
yeah.
was what it was, right?
You didn't have time to stew about it. You had to move on
No,
to the next thing.
no.
Yeah.
But I tell a story. I'm really good friends with Tony Stewart,
Mhm.
and the first event that we had there, the first 4-day event, a few years ago, but it was super dusty the first couple of nights, and I got on Twitter and I posted, I wish it would rain. That's all I said. I didn't tag anybody's name in it, no racetrack. And so Tony comes down to me before that night's event, and grabs a hold of me and gets me going pretty good. And he said, hey, look, there's nobody in this industry right now putting up this kind of money, so you need to keep your mouth shut on social media. And I said, yes, sir. And he patted me on the back, and he said, I hope you have a good weekend, and I hope you do good tonight. But that was a big lesson to me, is first of all, you don't know who's watching. You don't know who's paying attention. And I didn't say anything bad about anybody, but Tony knew what I was talking about. And
Do you, yeah,
there's people
do
like
you,
that take that stuff to heart.
yeah, do you think that because you were a racer first for such a long time, that's kind of helped you as a track owner be, racer friendly? I don't know if that's even a term.
Yeah, no, I think it definitely has helped me. But I tell people all the time, the level that I'm at now, there's such a vast variety of where I was doing it professionally to now dealing with kids and moms and dads and grandparents. And that part of it's been very, very educational. And I've had to learn to bite my tongue because social media is such a powerful way to communicate these days. And sometimes the communication on their side of it's not good. And so it's one thing that you have to learn. You got to let it slide off your back and try not to take it to heart, because at the end of the day, as a group, as a family of Port City, um, we know we try to do a good job. And listen, we mess up. There's calls that we miss and things that we screw up on a sometimes weekly basis. But it happens, right? Like everything happens very quick at our racetrack, and we try to do the best that we can. And sometimes it's just not good enough for some people. And those are the types of situations you just got to learn to let it roll off your back. And um, but it's been fun. We're going into our fourth season as owners, and we've learned so much from each year. And obviously, we're going to continue to learn things.
I've noticed that, and I've seen it when I go there. I've been to a lot of racetracks at this point and going to more every year, right? And the just the the facility and the cleanliness and the attention to detail, you get a lot of positive reviews for that. Where does that come from? Why are those details so important to you?
Well, I mean, it's something that uh growing up in the industry, you always heard of certain racetracks having good food, right? Like people go there to
Yeah.
Devil's Bowl. Growing up at Devil's Bowl, their burritos were excellent. Everybody loved their burritos. And then you also hear of, oh man, that track, the people were really nice and the bathrooms were clean. Well, I don't use the bathroom at racetracks. Those are the things that I just never really paid attention to, but I listened. And so when I inherited Port City, it was already a nice place, right? Like the food was good, the bathrooms were clean, and I've made a few changes to clean things up here and there. But I inherited a great place to begin with, which is huge for me. And we continue to try to go down that path because Port City's been put on such a high pedestal for those things, right? And it all matters. It all matters, right? Like the bleachers have to be nice, the bathrooms have to be clean for the ladies, and the food has to be good because some people go there to eat the food.
Mhm.
And on top of that, we try to work hard on keeping our infield clean. And we improved our victory lane circle, and we were able to sell that to a couple sponsors. And um it all adds up, but it's stuff that you learn along the way to try to make better. And we're going to continue to do that.
You give a tremendous experience for everybody, that it's a driver, it's a family member, it's the sponsor that has an upgraded place to showcase their brand. And let's kind of end the final question for you is along those lines. You've got you've got a great way to demonstrate your brands on that back straightaway. The winner circle looks fantastic now. But there's some other things that I think you've maybe seen over the time. We've got naming rights opportunities and all sorts of engagement for companies to bring their employees. Have you seen someone kind of optimize Port City in that way, or a sponsor that really gets it, and something that you would share with people that might be thinking about doing the same thing?
Yeah, I mean, great points. And one of the things too is the streaming side of things. I mean,
Yeah.
that's becoming so important in our industry, and the streaming side for racetracks, it's a double-edged sword, right?
Yeah.
Like some promoters are like, if the weather's not just perfect, people are going to stay home and watch the races instead of coming to the racetrack and buying that hamburger or hot dog or putting their butts in the seat. So one of the things that we've started to do is go to these companies, these local companies, and say, hey, look, we're going to give you 25 to 50 free passes, and we're going to give you the naming rights for that actual night, right? Like we did a couple of Ford nights, which is there's a big Ford distribution center in Tulsa, and the manager of the place is a huge race fan, and we've became good friends, and we had a couple of those Ford nights this last summer, and we told them like, look, we're not going to charge you a dime to come in because if we have an empty seat, it's not doing us any good for it to be empty. So put a butt in the seat and have them come and enjoy the experience, come and enjoy the food. We have Bob's Turn 5, which is a full bar, and it's got TVs going in there. And when it's hot, it's nice and cool in there, and when it's cold, it's nice and warm in there. So it's another it's another selling point that we have for these companies, and we we're going to continue to try to do that more and more. And it because the thing is if they bring in 25 people, 10 of them might come back,
Yeah.
and those 10 are going to buy a pass right
Right.
at the front gate and enjoy the races with their family. And then on the streaming side of things, we do have companies that reach out to us and say, hey, look, what's it cost to have signage on the back straightaway, and so that it all makes sense. It all adds up, and once again, you never know who's watching your product, and that's one thing as a team that we work so hard at is trying to keep things clean, because you never know who's going to walk through the front gate. You never know who's going to be watching on your streaming channels, and we get a ton of compliments from people out of town that come to our racetrack and enjoy the atmosphere, enjoy the racing side of it, and that to me means a lot.
I remember the last time I was over at Port City, I was just stopping by, I think, to pay a visit. And there were two or three guys that had shown up from, maybe it was Chili Bowl week. I can't remember, that showed up there saying, hey, we've been watching these races on streaming, and we're from North Dakota or somewhere, and we want to drop by and see it. I mean, you're right. You never know who's watching, but they are.
Yes.
And the other thing, you and I, we visited as kind of entrepreneurs and business men for a few years. And what do you kind of what's your vision looking ahead? Do you have any new plans for trying new things, new events? Yeah, what's kind of on the horizon you might be able to share at this point?
Yeah, well, it's an ongoing process of
Yeah.
trying to figure out how you keep growing your business. And at our level, it's a challenge. But I feel like it's a challenge for any promoter right now. One of the things there's so many big paying micro races these days that we've seen it take a pretty hard impact on like our weekly program, because you know it's like anything. The micro industry is getting more and more expensive to do. And some of these teams, the higher quality teams that race at my track on a weekly basis, they kind of stop racing there on a weekly show because they know that there's so many good high paying micro races that they try to save their equipment for now.
Mm.
And so then you start as a promoter, excuse me, thinking, how can I keep these people coming, right? And that's one thing that we're trying to work on, is grow our purses. um you know our costs go up just like everybody else's, and we've raised our pit pass prices, and with that, you get a little bit of backlash, and so then we try to find ways to increase what they make, and so to kind of subsidize the higher pit pass prices. So that's something that we're continuing to work on. The digital board, I see it more and more at racetracks. That's something that I'm really working hard to implement at our place. Another great avenue to display sponsors and commercials, and they've come such a long way with digital boards that we can do instant replays from crashes, and it's another way for us to advertise our weeks coming up with our bigger events. And so that's something that we're looking at doing, and just keep growing. I mean,
Yeah.
you can't stop growing.
Right. Keep improving, keep growing, never ending improvement. That's what Shane Stewart's all about. And that's what, frankly, Port City Raceway is all about, folks. Hey, Shane, thanks for spending a little bit of time with us today. I can't wait to get back to the track. I can't wait to see you in the next few months. And thanks for joining us again and sharing some of your views.
JP, my pleasure, buddy. Appreciate
See
you,
you
man.
next time. All right. Hey, folks, thanks for joining us. And if you want to connect with Shane and the Port City team, we're going to make available his contact information and a link to some of the sponsorship opportunities and naming rights that we even mentioned today. Hope those are attractive to you. And until next time, thanks for joining us on the Push to Pass podcast. So long, everybody.